Welcome back. I'm still with Mr. Erie Soedarmo. He is the senior researcher of Center for Energy Studies at University of Indonesia. And we are talking about seeking way to return to OPEC. All right, well, it's about the challenges and the outlook for the Indonesian oil and gas sector. But then, in terms of the challenges, what do you see about it? What will be the challenges we have to face in terms of in the oil and gas sector?
Well, as one thing that we should consider is the government projects, the 30,000 megawatts electricity power plant, and also Pertamina's project to build 8 more refineries, revitalization of the current existing refineries. But that will take around like 5 to 8 to 10 years. I mean, if you read the newspaper this morning. But the immediate one is the 35,000 megawatts electricity project. So the government has to be exact. It has to be open, transparent on how are we going to fuel this power plant. Well, some people saying that we're going to use it 100 coal, or partly coal, partly gas, partly other, form of energy.
Well, as it has been known, it's going to be for diversification of energy.
But look at this one here. The thing is, if something wrong with all these so-called power generations of power plant, if they are fueled with gas, that will cost around 6,500 million standard cubic feet per day. If the whole project 35,000 is going to be fueled with gas, and that will outlast Bontang and Badak and Tangguh at the same time, at the very same time. If it is going to be to use as coal, we're going to use that to fuel that power plant with coal. That will take the amount of 80 million tons of coal per year to fuel this power plant. And you have to look at that we have already signed Kyoto protocols, and we have already done some projects with so-called these carbon storage. We are collecting money from the donor countries. If we'll be able to reduce the amount of our contributions in polluting the air. And even our former president has already stated in G20's meeting that we committed to reduce the number of carbon pollutions in the atmosphere. So it is not there is no clear sanction, but some countries like in China, if they are exporting other goods based upon a power plant or electricity and major contributors in polluting the air, you can see that there is always a danger of a threat of boycotts or things like that. So we really have to set up, if it is going to be the reason why it's 1.1 million barrels per day of middle distillates that needs, if we want to fuel the 35,000 megawatt by middle distillates only. That means diesel or fuel oil. And the current amount of fuel consumption, liquid petroleum fuel consumption is 1.3 million barrels per day. That consists of kerosene and diesel, middle distillates, and also mogas. So you can imagine that if we have to import that amount almost equal to what we are really consuming right now, even to do that, and we have to have ways of avoiding the sole rent seeker. We really have to find a way of getting this fuel at a right price to make sure that the power electricity or the power generations in Indonesia is affordable by the whole community. Now, if we want to use gas to do that, it's impossible. Can you imagine that a 20 megawatts power plant in the central Indonesia and also in the eastern part of Indonesia? We are actually a country which consists of 13,000 islands. Can you imagine to draw a 300 kilometers pipeline to get into a very small power plant like 15, 20 to 25 megawatts, for example.
That is not feasible.
And also the pipeline is subsea pipeline. It is very expensive. So that means economic of scale, it's impossible to do that. So what we really have to know, the government has to look at the so-called the small scale LNG chain value network. It means that currently the LNG, because we are scattered as countries, the only way of transporting the gas is in the form of CNG, compressed natural gas, or even more efficient is the LNG, liquid natural gas, because we have plants in Bontang, in Badak, in Arun. The only thing is the available vessels in jetties to fill in the tanks is a very large vessel, 60,000 metric ton to 125,000 metric ton, which is enormously large. So what we need to know is to build a small chain, LNG chain. That means we really have to have smaller jetty, 8,000 to 10,000 metric tons of vessels. And on the other side, there's also a receiving terminals, an FSRU, and a small LNG regasification unit. But all fed or catered by a fleet of small LNG vessels or barge with ISO tanks. Now, currently in the world, there are only six or seven 10,000 metric ton vessels. And if you want to build it, it costs around $70 million or $100 to $100 million to build that small cryogenic vessels. That's impossible only to serve a very, you have to build that system. It's called the network, to do that.
It's going to be enormous.
Yes, then we have the option whether we can use as a backup for this petroleum fuel through OPEC. We can have the coal, but we can avoid ourselves being sanctioned or boycotted because we are called the majority contributors into air pollution. But at the same time, we also managed to utilize to consume our own gas. This is going to be the first in the world because there is no such a small LNG value chain because we are so unique. Our country is puts of 13,000 islands. No pipeline, small vessels, not large vessels. What happened now, actually, we are taking LNG from Hanggu and small FSRUs. This is economically unfeasible. So that's my I think my message to the government is that really have to sit down and develop the strategy. OPEC is, I think, is correct, but to go there, I think better not as an observer.
Okay, well, after all, we hope for the best for the Indonesian oil and gas sector
and
in the future.
The important thing is, when we left OPEC, we are not actually dismissed or we are cancelled our membership. We are only
suspended. All right.
Yes. Suspend. So they expect us to go back. Anytime we can go back there.
Okay, so Mr. Erie Soedarmo, I'm sorry, but the time is limited. Thank you so much for your time here. Yeah, we
Thank you so much.
it.
You're welcome.
That ended our discussion with Mr. Erie Soedarmo. He is the senior researcher of Center for Energy Studies at the University of Indonesia. We were talking about seeking way to return the OPEC, and in the next segment, we'll still have some more news and business updates. Stay with Revenews International. Thank you.
Thank you so much.